Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, which is Bava Metzia DAF Kuftes. We are holding right on top of the Mishnah. Makabel Soda Mechaveri. A fellow contracted with his friend. He's going to be the sharecropper. And Rashi points out that here we're speaking about a choicher, which is the flat rate system. Okay, so he's going to deal with the fellow. He's going to take care of his field for a couple of years. L'shana mu'atos, for a small number of years. Okay, and Rashi says it means pochis mizayin shanim. It's a contract with a duration of less than 7 years. So he must be careful to keep away from any activities which can have long-term damaging ramifications to the field. So he has two restrictions. Lo yizra ena pishtan. Firstly, you should not plant flax, which really wears out the land, and it has a 7-year effect. It takes 7 years for the karka to regain its former strength. So if he's there for less than 7 years, he shouldn't be introducing pishtan into this property. Likewise, he's not entitled to chop off the beams, these sikma beams. So the sikma tree is an interesting tree. It grows with many trunks, thick trunks, which are used for beams, for construction purposes. And that takes 7 years to regrow. If he's there for less than 7 years, he's not entitled to pick off these beams. But kibla haimenu l'zayin shana, if he's there for 7 years, then he could do these things. Shana rishana, the first year he can introduce the pishtan, yizra ena pishtan. V'yesh lebekar shikma, likewise, he can, at that first year, he can remove the kara shikma, because by the time he's done, it will have fully regrown. Amar Abaye, b'kara shikma einlei. So we speak about a fellow who's there for less than 7. He's not entitled to the kara shikma. Okay. But bishvach shikma yeshlei, after all, in 5 years, the shikma did grow pretty significantly, and he has a portion in that as well. He's not going to remove it, but he has a right to ask for compensation. He's meant to get, let's say, 40% of the crop. This is also a type of crop, according to Abaye, because these things are meant to be removed. It's like pay raise. So even though practically we don't allow him to do it, but he's entitled to be compensated for his portion, for his cut, so to speak, of that uncut beam. Rabbi disagrees. No. While in its uncut state, it's considered keren, it's principal, it's part of the actual property. You don't walk away with the trees. You get a cut of you get a percentage of the crop. It's not crop. So if you're not entitled to the actual beam, you can't demand compensation for your portion of that added growth in the tree. Meisve, here comes a kasha on Rava, who considers the extra added growth as principal, as keren, as actual property, and not as peiros, which provides, which would entitle the sharecropper to a portion of that. Meisve, makabel soda mechaveri. A fellow was makabel a field. It's time to leave. Shamaloi, we make an appraisal for him, and we give him a portion of that, whatever it is. Now, what are we appraising here? My love, I mean the grain he takes, at least part of it. What's the point of appraising and compensating? My love, shamaloi b'shvach shikma. We are referring to the added shikma growth, which he can't physically take. He can demand compensation. It's a right to Abaye. It's considered peiros. No, says the Gemara, loy, shamala yarka v'silka. The appraisal pertains to vegetables that grew in that field. Yarka, vegetables, v'silka, beets. And he's meant to be compensated for his portion of that growth. Well, says the Gemara, if that's what it is, let him take it. He's entitled to the actual fruit. Why does he need to be compensated for it? Why is he demanding payment in lieu, right, to substitute for that fruit? Yarka v'silka ne'akir, let him uproot it, pull it out, finish, go and take it with him. At least his cut, his portion. The market day has not yet arrived. It's unfair to pull it out at this point. It's going to get ruined. He has to leave it in there, but he's entitled to a share of that growth, which grew under his watch. So he substituted with a payment. But it's not speaking about added tree growth. because that's called tree, that's property, that is not entitled to. Tashmai comes another raya. And Makabal Sad Mechaveri. Okay? Vigia Shvius arrives. Shamaloi, we have to make an appraisal and compensate him. Now, what's going on? Shvius, Mika, Mafka, Arish, because Shvius comes, why does he have to leave? I understand you can't work the field on Shemitah, but why does it cancel the sharecropper arrangement? Why does he have to leave? Why can't he carry on after Shemitah? Ella Ema, rather it goes like this. The 50th year arrives. Shaman Loi. Again, the same question. Makati still Yovel mi mafka kablana. Since when does Yovel affect a sharecropper contract? I mean, Litzmisus Amar Rahmana. Torah says Yovel overrides permanence. If not for Yovel, would you be permanently there? Meaning, a person buys something, Yovel comes, takes something which could be permanent, which has potential for tzmisus, and undoes that. But if he's just a kablan, a sharecropper, there's no element of permanence there. Yovel doesn't obliterate that, so that can't work in the brisa. Ema, rather, third attempt is like this. The brisa is speaking about halekeyach. Sada Mechaver. Shimon purchases property from Reuven. Yovel shows up, and now he has to abandon that property. He has to give it back to the owner. What did the Brisa say? He's entitled to some form of compensation. Shaman loy. Apparently, we're speaking about some added value. Okay, so perhaps we'll propose, as we said before, what's going on vegetables which he's leaving behind. He's entitled to be compensated for those. No, he's not. Silka v'yarka, these vegetables, v'yovel, and yovel afkero, becomes hefka, it's ownerless, belongs to everybody. You're not entitled to be compensated for that. Elalav, the only option left is shvach shikma. These shikma beams, which he hadn't taken with him, and they're nice and big now, and he wants to be compensated for that before he gives up the field. Apparently, it's called peres. They're not keren. That's a raya to Abaye's approach. Tirguma Abaye, I'll leave it to Rava. So Abaye came and explained it according to Rava. He answered the kasha on Rava. Shani Hassan. You're right, but that brisa is different. We're speaking about relinquishing property, come yovel, and you're still entitled to hold on to some added value that you have contributed to, that happened under your watch. You know why? The Amakra, the pasuk says, "V'yotza mimkar bayis." You give up the actual home that was purchased, the actual field that was sold. Mimkar chayzer, but shvach, the added value, the increased tree size, that belongs to the buyer. Einay chayzer, that doesn't go back to the owner. He has the right to take that. Okay, so let's learn from there. Just like the added thickness in the tree is considered yours and not the original owner's, likewise by a mekabel, we treat that separate from the actual field. He's entitled to a portion of that added thickness. No big difference. Hasam zvini malyahu. Over there by Yovel, we're speaking about a real purchaser. Shimon bought this field from Reuben. It's really his. The Yovel, but comes Yovel, afkatu de malki. The Torah Hashem says, let go. Let go of the actual field, of the actual house. But not the added value, the added shvach, that you still keep. So by Yovel, it's yours, except for what the Torah demands you to let go of. But shvach of the tree you still hold on to, you still retain. But by us, by the makabel, it goes the other way, it goes the other direction. Really, it all belongs to Reuven, the owner. Shimon is just a makabel, he's a sharecropper. Okay, he's only entitled to real peres, but not something which really relates to the actual property, such as the added thickness of those trees, although they grew under his watch. So bottom line, we have a machlekes Abaye and Rava. I mean, the actual field, of course, belongs to the owner. The actual tree belongs to the owner. The peres, well, that's a shared issue, right? The shared entity, that belongs partially to the owner and part to the sharecropper. These are sort of in between. It's a gray area. The shvach, shikma. Because remember that shikma beams are meant to be removed, but it's still premature. It's not ready to be removed. But it has added value. Now 50% of its full growth. So the Mekabel wants compensation. Abaye says he's entitled because it's like peres. Rava says no. Shemitah is different. I mean, Yovel is different. Continues the Gemara. Rav Papa kabel aralas fast. Rav Papa was makabel a property to work on it and to generate animal feed. Kadchu batali. Suddenly, there were trees that started sprouting in the field, and suddenly there are trees growing there. Kika mistalik. So down the road, Rav Papa was leaving the job. Amar Lu, he told the owner, just like I'm entitled to a percentage of the asfasta, havali shvacha, give me a part of the value of those trees. Look, it's something which happened under my watch. Amar Lu Rav Shisha Breder Rav Papa. He challenged Rav Papa. If that's the case, let's say you're tending to a palm field, right, and suddenly you see they grew. Why, naturally trees grow, right? There too, you demand a percentage of the added thickness. I mean, it's part of the field. You get part of the payrace, but the field and the trees belong to the owner. Here as well, why are you demanding a portion of these young new trees that happened under your watch? Amar Lei, so he responded, in the case of the palm trees that grew thick, he wasn't planning on taking a part of those trees with him, so it wasn't part of his commission. No, but by me, I came down to the field to take from anything that grows in the field, including these trees. It says the Gemara, okay, this ties into the previous discussion, because they were speaking about added value due to tree growth, right? Kaman kabai, are we going only like Abai, the Amr b'shvach shikma yeshloi? There's like over there, he demands a part of the shikma tree here as well, but it's not going to go like Rava, who considers a tree to be actual property and not produce. Afilu tema karava, says the Gemara, no, this claim of Republican can work even according to Rava. Big difference, you know why? Hasam leslie pseda. In the previous case, when the shikma trees grew nice and big and developed themselves, the sharecropper had no loss from it. Right? As opposed to our case, look, he was meant to plant asfasta throughout. Suddenly there were trees growing. They take the place of an asfasta. So he lost that spot. So he's entitled to some compensation. So he responded, okay, so how much did you lose? The asfasta. The place where you could have grown the asfasta instead of the tree. Okay, so at least don't ask for more than that. Shokol yodad asfasta. Vazil, take as much as demand. You're entitled to the value of the potential asfasta that you could have grown in that spot. That's it. You're gone. Don't ask for more. You can't ask for the actual tree or the value of the tree. Amar Lacey says, no, I wouldn't have planted cheap asfasta in that spot. No, kurkuma the rishkur aboy. I would have planted the expensive saffron, the garden variety saffron. So I want more than that. Amar Lacey says, okay, but at least you're conceding golas adaitach to the mishkal vistaluki adas. You were never planning on really planting something here for the long term. You weren't planning on planting trees as a long-term investment. At most, you're saying you would have planted something, a saffron or something that you could have planted and quickly walked away with it and made $1, right? Okay. Shakel, so he used like a sort of a play on words. Shakel, take kurkuma rishka vazil, take whatever you would have planted and taken away. Meaning, theoretically, you would have planted kurkuma the rishka, so take that much and leave. What does he mean to say? At most, you're entitled to firewood value. As though those trees that grew were now uprooted and sold us for firewood. You were never really planning on planting here for a long-term investment. At most, you were going to plant something and take it with you. Okay, so now we have trees. Imagine the trees are now going with you. What is their value? Firewood. Okay, so that's what you're entitled to. Rabbi Bar Abaye Kabul Ara. He was makabel a piece of property. He was a sharecropper. And around that property there was this rocky, like hard surface where you can't really plant. Suddenly we have these little bushes or whatever, zarda trees growing there. Kika mastalik. So when he left the deal, when he left the contract, Amrlu, he told the owner, provide me a portion, a percentage of the value of those trees as well. It's also part of my doing. Amra Papi, no, he disagreed vehemently. Just because you come from the descendants of Eli HaKohen, who had a klala to die young, Amrisu Milu Milyasi, you're saying incomplete things, meaning why are you demanding this extra commission? Afilu Papa Amar. Imra Papa in the earlier story only demanded pay because he in fact was suffering a loss. Because those trees were displacing some of his, right? But here you have no loss. Nobody plants on rocks. So you can't demand anything for those plants. Rabbi Yosef Havaldeu Shasla. Now we shift to a shoisel, a shasla in Aramaic. He's a fellow who tends to a vineyard. He's like a full caretaker, a full landscaper. He plants the vineyard and maintains it, and he gets 50% of the produce. That's his deal. So Rabbi Yosef had this worker who took care of his vineyard. Shachav, he passed away, the caretaker. Shavak chamisha chasan basa. He left behind 5 son-in-laws who wanted to take over the business. Omar, Rabbi Yosef says, look, I'm not going to deal with 5 separate people. I want to, get a new contractor. Until today, Chad had 1 guy to deal with. It was convenient. Hashta chamisha, now I have 5. No. Until now, I had 1 fellow. There were no, people relying on each other, and end up being a mess. I had 1 guy running the show, fully mafsudly, and it was fine, and nobody was making trouble. Hashta chamisha samchadade. Now I'm going to have 5 people relying on each other for the job. Mafsudly, they're going to mess up my whole vineyard. I don't want you involved. Amarlu, he told him, look, I'll make you a deal. Here's the offer. Okay? If you'll take your 50%, your shvach, whatever you're supposed to get, and you willingly leave the job, mutter, fine, okay. If you lie, but otherwise, if you refuse, I'm just going to evict you, I'm going to fire you without giving you a penny. Damar Yehuda, Vitema, some say Rav Huna, Vitema Rav Nachman, Hai Shasla, the Shacha, Shaisel passes away, you should know that the commission that was coming to him does not carry over to the kids. You can just fire the kids without giving them anything. It's not like it belonged to him to pass on. So basically, he had a full right to give them this sort of ultimatum. Either you leave willingly, I'll give you. Otherwise, you'll leave without anything. And the Gemara disagrees. The Gemara concludes, it's incorrect, because if the father was entitled to 50% or whatever it is that he earned, that's regular earnings. It's like his. And that transfers to the kids and is rightfully theirs. So he must give them the percentage. Of course, he doesn't have to keep them on the job, but he has to pay them whatever they deserve. We have another story of a shoisel who told the owner, if I harm your property, I don't do a good job, misalakna, I'm just going to leave. Afsid, okay, he messed up. Omar Yehuda, mistak l'shvacha. You can get rid of him without giving him a penny. Even though there was something that he, improved, some growth happened, but he willingly gave that up when he said, I'm going to leave, right? Rav Kahana Amar, no, he disagrees. Mistakla v'shakla shvacha. Sure, he leaves, but he never meant to give up to forfeit his commission. Umoid Rav Kahana, but even Rav Kahana would agree. Di Amar, let's say he would say clearly, if I fail, ipasidna mistalakna below shvacha, I'm going to leave without taking a penny. In this case, you do as he says. Mistalak below shvacha. Rava Amar, Rava disagrees. Asmachti, it's an exaggerated promise. It's not a serious type of commitment. Asmachta lekanya, it's not really binding. Asks the Gemara, Rava, Maishna Madasnan. According to Rava, how do we explain the difference between this and the Mishnah we had the other day? This not in Ma'aver V'Liyavid. We have a sharecropper who says, look, if I'm going to leave the field fallow, I'm not going to work this year. Ashal Meitav, I'll pay full rate. That's also an exaggerated promise, and the Mishnah says he has to keep to his word. Why is this different? No, it says there's a big difference. He's just compensating the owner for the loss that he caused him by leaving the field fallow. That's a fair deal. That's not an exaggerated promise. But here, we deduct whatever he did wrong, but the rest he's entitled to take. And the rest, we must pay him. Says the Gemara, there was a story about another shaysel. Runya, that was his name. Shasla, he worked for Ravina. Runya Shasla the Ravina Hava. Afsid, he did a bad job. Salke, he threw him off the job. Oslo came to Rav, he comes to Rav. Amalei, he says to Rav, complaining, Chazi Mar, Maika Avali, do you see what my boss did to me? Amalei, so Rav says, sure, Shabra Avalach, he did right. Amalei, so Runya complained, Halei Hisrabi, he didn't warn me ahead of time. Amalei, Rav says, Lo tzricha lahasreis. Warning in this case is not necessary. Because when it's something so critical as tending to a vineyard, you can cause permanent, irreversible damage. You don't need to be warned. You have to be conscientious and careful the first time around. And if you mess up, you're out. Rava follows his opinion. Rava says the following individuals have a sort of a standing warning. Mikri Dardaki, one of them is a Rebbe in the Cheder. If he he errs in his teachings, the kids get the wrong information. Shasla or a shaisel, tafcha a moihel, vu'umana. Sorry, tafcha is a sheikh. Vu'umana is a moil. The sapar masa is a sefer, right? He writes the Sefer Torah. All these fellows must be extra careful. Kulan, all these people, kumusaran va'imdin. It's as though they have a outstanding warning hovering over their head. Kumusaran va'imdin dam. Claudim also, what's the rule? Called pseidli hadar. Anybody who can cause, in this profession, can cause irreversible damage. Kumusaran va'imdin dami. And therefore, one strike and you're out. Says the Gemara, Shasa, there was another story regarding a shaisa damalu. He turns to his owner after many years. Okay, could I please have my commission? The Ba'ina Lamesak, Lar Yisrael. I want to move up to Yisrael. Okay, and the crop was still unpicked, unharvested. He worked on it, he developed it, but it sort of left it in the middle, left it hanging, and now he wants his commission. Also, he tells him, look, he instructed them, he told the owner, you have to give him his commission. Amalei Rava. So Rava thought he meant that he gets the full crop. Ihu Ashbach. Only he contributed to this growth. Arale Ashbach. What about the property? Meaning the owner also should get part. Amalei, he says, you're right. I know Palga the Shvacha coming. I never meant that he gets more than half. He gets 50% as per the standard, commission arrangement. Palga the Shvacha coming in Lecha. Amalei. So he told him, but look, he's causing trouble. He's causing the owner extra expenses by leaving prematurely. Amar Le, so he told him, no, it's unfair for him to take the full 50% that he's typically entitled to. You know why? Because there are now added expenses on account of the owner. Look, you're leaving mid-season. Ada idna have a shakel balabayis palga, right? Up until today, the deal was the owner gets 50%, b'shas palga, and the worker takes the gardener takes 50%. But hashta now, who's going to finish the year? Who's going to take care of the crop that's still on the trees? Ba'ilam Isav, he has to find an aris, right? A typical sharecropper. He has to give him 30%. That's the standard fare for the aris. Ba'ilam Isav Mansa, the portion larisa to the aris. So the shaisel, upon his departure, has to account for that as well. Amalei, he says, yeah, that's what I meant. Riva de shvacha kamina. I meant that he only gets a quarter, typically takes half. He has to forego part of that. Now, how exactly does that solve the problem? Well, let's see. Savar Rav Ashi Lamemer. Rav Ashi figured, this is how you calculate the formula. When he said a quarter, he means like this. Riva, duhu danka. A quarter, which is really a sixth. How's that? And Rashi explains, let's say, just to keep it simple, this year's crop yielded, 6 dinar. Okay, so the shevach amounts to 6 dinar. Typically, the shaisel takes 3, the balabais 3. But first, you have to deduct for the aris, the extra expense, which is going to be a third. So from 6, you have to give him 2. So you're left with 4. And now the shaisel will take a quarter of that, a quarter of the 2/3, a quarter of the 4, which is 1. So he's walking away with $1 of the total, out of the total amount of 6. So it's really a sixth of the total amount. Rivadu danka. Why? The Amar Rav Menyumi, Breder Rav Nechami, right? It works. Ba'asra the shakel shasla palga. Harisa tilsa, in a place where the shaisel typically walks away with half, and the aris, who comes, to just to tend to the crop, right? A shaisel gets a higher percentage because he actually planted the trees, he's maintaining it for the long term, and aris is sort of a year by year sharecropper. So the aris's rate, the aris's commission is less. He takes a third. Harisa tilsa, high shasla. So therefore, if a shaisel decides to leave mid job, the boy is still okay. We give him his percentage of shvach, and he leaves. But we do it in a manner that will protect the homeowner and protect them from any financial losses. hefsid l'balabayis, in a way that the balabayis does not lose out. So now, so this works well if we say, as we just explained, that riva do danka. That way, when we give him a quarter, it means really a sixth of the total amount. Shaper. So now the owner didn't lose anything on account of the extra expense to the aris. Right? Because again, we start with $6. The aris gets 2. The shaisel only walks away with 1, leaving with the balabais with 3, which is really what he initially was entitled to. 3 out of 6, 50%. Eli amris riva mamish. But if you go a quarter, that he literally meant he gets a quarter of the total 6. So the shaisel walks away with 1.5. And now he has to give the aris 2, leaving the balabais with 2.5. So the balabais will lose out a half of a 6, a half a dollar. So apparently when we said the shasla takes a quarter, we meant a sixth of the total amount, as we explained. You start with 6, 2 goes to the aris, 1 goes to the shaisel, leaving 3, which is half of the total amount of the balabais. No. But because the shaisel can respond by saying, look, I don't need an aris for my half. Right? You're giving an aris a third of the total 6. No. You don't have to have anybody come take care of my part. And you, mansa dilach havi larisa. You, Mr. Owner, you hire the aris to take care of your part. Vana mansa dili. And regarding my portion of the crop, I'll do whatever I want with it. I'll sell it or whatever. I don't need an aris taking care of my crop. So, yeah, so basically when he said a quarter, he really meant a quarter for the shaisel. Right? Because I don't need to give a third of mine to the aris. So if you're going to give me 1, give me really 1.5. Give me back the third that you took away from me. So that was the question asked to Rav Ashi. And according to Rashi's interpretation, he really accepted the challenge. It was a kasha. He says, that's a really strong question. Ki matas the shchitas kachim. When you get to the deep discussions of Maseches Zavachim, when you get there, Talk should actually come and ask me this question. We'll deal with it then. Meaning, it's a real good question. Gufa, let's go back. Omar Rav Menyumi, right? Breder Rav Nechumi. So we go through this formula again. Ba'asur shakal shasla palga or resa tilsa, right? In a place where the shaisel is entitled to 50%, the aris gets a third. Hai shasla. The boys look if the shaisel leaves the job midway. Yavina lei shivachi masalkin lei. So we give him, what he's entitled to in a way that will protect the homeowner from any future losses. Ki echad lelifsod balabayis. Amar Rav Menyumi, Breder Nechumi. So based on this formulation, Kupa, Saba, let's say he has some old vines that have dried up and are no longer producing, and the landowner wants to uproot it. Palga, so half of it goes to the shaisel. It's like any other, it's like grapes, like any other peres, like any other product off the field. But Shatfa Nahara river, let's say it was transplanted, it was uprooted by the river, that's not something expected. It's not a routine type of, scenario. So in a non-routine scenario, as we said before, he only gets a quarter river. He only gets a quarter of the firewood. And somehow we connect this to the previous discussion that when it's something that he anticipated, he's entitled to 50%. But something which is unanticipated, something which is not really part of the routine arrangement, his percentage, his commission goes down to a quarter. And somehow this, I guess it's just like a standard formula, which entitles him to less. Now we'll go over to the idea of a mashkin. A fellow borrowed money. He allowed the lender to sit on the field and to work it and to get the pay raise. and put it, towards the balance of that loan, right? It's a mashkanta d'sura. They deduct from the loan based on the income of the field, right? Because what happened was after 5 years, the paradise, the vineyard, stopped producing. Kash means a hiskin. It got old. It got dried up. It's done. And Rashi says ubezmanai shahaya roy lekach was anticipated, right? Abai amar pirahabi. Now, what happens to these vines? Are they considered firewood? In which case, it can only be used for firewood. Is it called like pears? Is it like grapes? In which case, the bank, the fellow who lent the money, the Baal HaMashkin, just walks away with it, like any other pears that he takes. Rava disagrees, and this a little bit ties into the discussion way back in the beginning of today's DAF. According to Rava, if it's the actual tree, you can't call it peres, karnahavi, it's the actual principle, it's the inherent property. In which case, the bank can't just walk away with it. You can't take away this fellow's property, you can take produce. But this isn't peres. Rather, you take these vines and you sell it. You look by karka. In exchange, you take the money, and the money received in exchange, you take and reinvest it. You buy more property, which now belongs to the borrower. And the lender continues eating the pears. Here comes a kasha. On Rav, who considers this to be non-peres. Yavashilun, by niktsas. So again, we go back to the mashkoin arrangement. The tree dried up or got chopped down. Shnei masurim boy. Both individuals cannot take it. What should they do? You machur le'etzim, you sell it for firewood. You reinvest it into property. And have the bala mashkoin eat the pears. My lab. Let's assume yavish to win the niktzas. Both examples cited in the Brisa are similar to each other. Ma niktzas, just like when you chop the tree, bizmani, we're assuming that the fruit tree was chopped because it stopped producing, right? Likewise, when we speak about drying up, ceasing to produce because of its old age, it's expected. And what does the Brisa say? It's still considered keren, its principle. The ketani, you have to reinvest it. Alma karnav apparently has the status of keren. Loi says that we're niktzas to the yavish. Let's go the other way. Let's compare niktzas to yavish. Ma yavish below is money, just like yavish can certainly be speaking that happened prematurely, unexpectedly. Av niktzas below is money, likewise. The niktzas story happened, just randomly, right? So there we say, look, this wasn't the natural course of events. Even Abaye agrees in this case. It's not the derech, it's not what we expect, it's not what it's meant to be, and therefore it doesn't have a din of peres. He chopped off a piece of the property, so there you have to reinvest it. Tashmai comes another right. Enough loga fun and bezesim, zakenim. We have a married woman who inherited vines, old olive trees that are no longer producing fruit. They're only good for one thing, for firewood. You sell it as firewood, you look at karka, pears, and you reinvest it. You buy another piece of property, and the pears go to the husband. So what's the kasha? Apparently, because they're actual trees, they're called keren, because if they would be considered peros, like Abaye, then the husband would just keep it. With Chachamim granted the husband rights to his wife's peres. Eima v'hiskinu, says the Gemara, well, let's revise. V'hiskinu. Suddenly they turned old, they aged prematurely. In which case all agree it's considered keren. Yiboy same another pshat. To solve our kasha, lav miukim, haven't we already established and explained that halacha kigan shenaflo b'sada acheres? We're speaking that she only inherited these trees in somebody else's field. The property was not hers, only the trees. So in that case, all agree, the kochal yakarna, if you allow the husband to just pull out those dead trees, she has nothing left. That's all she had. So in that case, he has no right to take it. Rather, he has to use it to buy karka, to reinvest it, and then take the pears off the karka. But in a case where a person is a landowner upon which we have trees which died, perhaps in that case, since there's going to be the actual sada left for the owner, then certainly we can afford to consider the dead trees as pears. So So we pretty much started and ended the daf with the same discussion. What is the status of a tree? So in the beginning we discussed the shvach, right? The added thickness, the added growth, the added value, which the tree accumulated under the makabel's care. According to Abaye, it's called peres. He's entitled to take some of that on his way out, at least to be compensated for that. According to Rav, it's called keren, which ties into the last sugya now as well. Then we discussed that Rav Papa demanded payment for these trees, which grew under his watch, and all agree in that case. Even Rav would agree because that took place, displaced his other plants. We moved on to the Shai sale, a different type of arrangement. He is a vineyard planter and caretaker. He gets 50%, and that gets transferred to his kids. But the owner is entitled to move on to a different contractor if this fellow passes away. We discussed a list of people who are musrin va'imid. They're forewarned ahead of time because they're dealing with very critical professions. Then we discussed the Sheisel decided to move back to Eretz Yisrael. He's entitled to a portion of his share of his shvach, provided we accommodate the owner on his future expenses. Then we discussed the status of these non-producing trees. The Machlekes Abaye v'Rabba. Psuras Tevis Hatzlacha Rabba, and all the best.